So we're gonna grab our piece. We made sure that it was bisque fired. And now we're gonna grab a glaze. So over here, we have this cupboard. And as we look in here, a couple things to look for. You're looking for colors. On the label themselves, we'll show you the colors. The words will also tell you. There are some that don't have colors. It just says deep fire brick. We can look that up if you want to see it. It's a red color. So we're going to grab our pieces, our glazes, and go, okay, this is what I want. I want forest satin. Satin is kind of a matte color. There's not a lot of breaking going on, so there's not a lot of color differentiation. So I'll send that around. I'll find one that breaks a lot. It breaks a little bit, but this dragon eye, I'll send that around. You're going to see purple and white. So where the glaze hits the textures, it's going to go thin. It's going to go white or light. And then this one is a celadon. Celadons are translucent, which means you're going to be able to see your colors all over the place. Sorry, not your colors. You're going to see everything underneath your glaze. So all your texture, all those things, and I'll pass that around. So if you have light texture, you're going to want to go with a translucent glaze. If you have heavy texture, you can go with translucent all the way to opaque. Okay? Because that light texture with an opaque glaze, the opaque glaze will cover it up because you're not seeing through it. Okay, so we're going to grab a glaze. We'll do copper red and deep fire brick since we don't have examples of these. Just set them right here. And we're going to walk through exactly how I want you to paint these. Now, in class, I don't give you time to glaze. I don't say, okay, everyone, it's glazing day. Over the next week, before the end of next week, I want you to find time to grab your mugs and get them glazed. During class, after class, you choose what that looks like. So we're going to take our glazes. Remember, this is how I do every glaze. I take the lid off, well, that is chunky, and I put it back on, and then I shake it. Yeah, that is thick. That needs some water. So we're going to go here. That's better. And try not to shake it around people. Now, these don't have it on here, so how many coats would you put on?
3.
3 coats. On these, this one here, Dragon's Eye, it says apply 2 to 3 coats to bisque fired with a soft brush, alternating stroke direction, and it talks about dipping. Please don't dip into the bottles. So we're going to grab our paint brushes. There's a whole bunch there. There's some washed ones here. And we're going to come in here and paint these. So this is the one I shook up, right? No, that's the one that needs water. So we're going to dip straight out of the bottles. Please don't pour these into anything else. If you do, and you pour it into another cup, even if you pour it back out, you're still going to waste $1 to $2 worth of glaze because it's going to stick to that cup. So we're just going to take everything straight out of the bottle. I'm going to come in here, and these glazes like to go on pretty quick, and they like to go on, I call it haphazardly, which means we're not trying to be careful or spot glaze. We're not trying to be like, this goes exactly here. It's really hard to get these glazes to go exactly in a spot. But if we just throw it on, it's going to do what it's supposed to do. So we're going to come in here. glaze that. I choose glazes for our classes that are less volatile and fairly stable. And the reason for that is you're brand new. So if you put on 3 thick coats, there's a good chance we'll be okay. If you put on 2 coats, we'll be okay because it'll still be food safe. Because you're learning how to do this and learning how to glaze. Now, as you are doing this and you get this great idea, whatever it is, come talk to me before you try to apply it. So a great idea would be, I want to do an inside outside different colors. Perfect, we can do that. So we would come in here. Here's forest satin. Shake that up. And we're going to put that on the inside. Now yesterday, ooh, that's kind of chunky at the bottom. Yesterday I glazed this mug, and then I realized I didn't have enough mugs to demo glazing. So I washed it off, and that's why there's still a little bit of glaze in there. It'll be okay. So if you're gonna drink out of your mug, you have to glaze it. You have to. Otherwise, whatever you put in there is going to stick to the clay itself and become rancid. It'll soak in. It'll be gross. So again, I'm a quick glazer. I like to just throw it in there. Be mindful though that red glazes and dark glazes are going to stain your clothes. If I get all crazy and glaze goes flying, it's going to stain. So be extra careful. Take off your white hoodie, right? You don't want that dripping on your stuff. Will it come out? There's a good chance it won't. This purple color, there's a good chance it's not coming out of light colors. So cool. So I have 1 coat and 1 coat. So what if I'm going to skip the 2nd coat. I'm on my 2nd coat. What if I'm like, I want to see what this green looks like over this red. Is that okay?
It'll just count for your 2nd coat.
It would just count, as long as we're in the 3 coats, it'll be fine, right? There are some glazes that react with each other in a runny way, but most of them don't. So let's say I want to be up here. I want to be like, I'm going to put on a coat up top just to see what this looks like. Fantastic. Do that. But if you put on 3 coats of one and 3 coats of another, the glass in the binder won't be strong enough to hold it to the mug itself, and it's going to run down and it's going to stick to the bottom. Then when we pull it out, big chunk of your mug stays on my shelf. So stick to 3 coats. For the most of you, I would say pick 1 glaze and call it good, right? Just pick 1 glaze, it'll be just fine. For some of you, you can change. Now, I'm gonna do something really crazy here. I'm gonna put green on the handle because I wanna see what my recipe looks like. So, fire brick underneath the green is going to give me 1 color. My theory is that green underneath fire brick will give me a different color, even though it's the same 2 glazes next to each other, because of how they are in the kiln and what the heat hits first. So when this dries, I'm going to come in here, we're going to put that on there, and we're going to see. And maybe this is like the glaze combination of the century. But as long as we stick with the 2 to 3 coats, you're going to be just fine. Any questions on that?
How many times do you glaze the inside?
2 to 3 coats.
Okay.
Yeah. So something like that. So I have one more to do on the inside, so we would just come in here. I don't want to grab it. And do. Now, you could put 4 coats on the inside if you can't remember. Because if it runs, where does it run to? The inside. So it's not that big of a deal. But if we do it on the outside and it runs off, and we don't want that. Okay, let's move forward. So we have that. We take our glazes. Make sure that you get those lids put on properly. The number one reason why glazes spill is because when someone puts them back, they don't put the lid on properly because they're rushing to get out of class, and they just throw them up here, and somebody reaches in here, the lid's halfway on, and then it's spilling all over the place. So be careful with those. Actually, like there's one right there. See how that lid's up a little bit? Because whoever put it on wasn't paying attention. So, when you grab them, unscrew the lid, screw it back on, shake it up, apply it appropriately, which is 3 coats. It should be good. Okay, dipping glazes. So, you are going to have access to anything that's on top of this table. Right now I have a couple of glazes that I'm testing out in the kiln. One's a yellow. One's the blue-green. Tenmoku's back here. We'll change that out probably because I don't know. Anyways, it'll be up here, and then I'll have some samples for you to see. Okay, before you just had clear. I'm actually going to change the clear out for, it's a clear gloss. I'm going to change it out for a clear matte. So it's going to be a matte instead of a glossy color. It's a new glaze, I've never used it before. So I always test the glazes before we put them out here. Something for you to look at, tongs. These are tongs. Okay, and they're for dipping our cups. So we're going to grab our cup, and when we grab a cup, you're going to want to push the tongs as far down as possible. You don't ever want to be up on top like this, because if I dip that in and fill it up with glaze, it's going to put some weight on it, and it'll break through, or have a chance of breaking through. So I'm going to be down here the best I can, and we hold it like a handshake, okay, and confidence is key here. Now, I'm going to come over here, and this is alabaster. This is a white color. It's not going to be up here, but it's a good example of mixing the glazes. So I'm going to turn the lights off, see if we can't see this. Maybe. It did yesterday. Must have had less clouds yesterday. We'll just do this. It'll be fine. So, as we come in here, Iago, you can look in there. Tell me what you see on the top.
Just looks like water.
Yeah, there's like 2.5, 3 inches of water. This glaze hasn't been mixed since probably last semester, so a couple of months. If I were to just dip it now in that water, nothing would happen to my mug. If I dip down further, I'm going to get a huge concentration of colorant and no silica. If I get all the way to the bottom, I'm going to get a huge concentration of silica, and everything's going to be weird, and I'll probably have running. So I'm going to take my drill. Put that down in the bottom. We're going to start it. How many seconds? 30. So I'm moving that around. I'm trying to get everything mixed up. The top, the middle, and the bottom all the same. And 30 seconds. And here's a rule. I think we talked about this before, but if you didn't see it mixed, it needs to be mixed. Because every glaze settles differently. Some glazes settle super fast. Some take a little bit longer. Clear takes longer to settle. 2, if you don't trust the person who mixed it, mix it yourself. But the answer is almost always mix it. If I just went in front of you and you saw me dip my stuff, you could probably trust that it's mixed properly, okay? If you don't trust me, mix it yourself. It won't hurt my feelings. So we're gonna come in here. I'm gonna hold this down. Now, it's gonna leave some little marks for your tongs there. And we don't touch wet glaze. So it's gonna come out, it'll dry, and we'll fix those problems. So we're gonna come in here, down, and pull it out. And let it drip. How long was that?
3 seconds.
Less than 3 seconds. So it's a pretty quick thing. It's not a fast thing. You're not like just throwing it down in there and pulling it out, but it goes down in, you shake it around, you pull it back out. Now, if you are apprehensive, you're gonna cause yourself some problems, so come find me, we'll walk you through it. If you're like, oh, I want to dip this half and half, and you don't know exactly how to do that, come find me, we'll walk you through it. Jesus. But you can wait till we're done with this, and it says when convenient. All right, so now that it's pretty dry, I'm gonna take my tongs off, okay? And I have some little marks on there. So those little marks right there. And there's a couple of things we can do. 1, you can just ignore them. There's a good chance they're gonna melt. 2, when they're dry, you can just come in here and buff them out. 3, I had a paintbrush up here. You can grab a paintbrush. And you can just dab just a little bit of that glaze on those spots. If you have running, so like streaks and things, don't freak out. Most of these glazes melt and you won't be able to see them. If you have air pockets, you can do the same thing. You can come in here and add just a little bit, but really most of them will melt just fine. All right, check the inside. That looks good. And just like everything else, if you don't know, come find me. We'll look through it. Now, before I wipe this off, I'm going to put the lid back on. Okay, back to you. If it's on top here, you have access to it as Ceramics 1 students, okay? If you see someone in Ceramics 2 or 3 using a glaze, you can ask me, and I may say yes, but the chances I'll say no. And there's a couple of reasons why. 1, the glazes I put on top are stable and less volatile. So they don't run as much, they don't cause as many problems. So if you mess up and dip this for 4.5 seconds, anything up here should be okay. Okay, I still want it at 3 seconds, but, right, you're brand new, you're gonna be a little apprehensive, it'll be okay. 2, cost. 1 bucket of Tenmoku costs about $50. I have a bucket down here of Shino. It's called Shino. It's a brown glaze that breaks, kind of a lighter brown. It's about $300. And you're learning how to glaze. So if you were to go on to Ceramics 2 and 3, we start talking about different glazes, and because you have more experience, I let you use some of those other glazes because you're not going 1, 2, 3, oh crap, right? Okay, so if it's on top, you can use it. I'll have some guides for it. It'll be up here. That'll all start happening tomorrow or the next day. If it's on the floor, please don't touch it. Any questions there? All right, we're gonna go over here to the sink. We're gonna grab a sponge. We're gonna wipe off the bottom. So for you, I have a big bucket up there. We'll do it. some of you are going to take this and you're going to set the rim right down on the table. When you do that, you're going to crack the glaze off of your mug. So don't put the rim on the table. Because I'm going to come in here and start to clean this off. If it's on the table, it's going to crack that off. So don't do that. But do grab one of these sponges, and they're all up here under the glaze table. There's a whole bunch of them. Put it underneath your work. Grab a sponge. Come in here. And you're going to wipe that down. Anything that touches the table needs to be wiped, and then anything up just a little bit. We need to see just a very light line around. So if I take this and set it on the table, I should be able to see a light line of where my clay and my glaze are. The glaze should not be all the way to the bottom. If you don't know, bring it to me and show it to me, and I'll look at it. I'll be like, no, that needs to be cleaned off better, or that looks good. Okay? All right. All of your mugs, the bottoms need to be wiped off.
And that goes with the paint on glaze.
The paint on glaze as well. Do not paint the bottoms of your mugs with the paint on glaze. There's no reason to. You're just going to wipe it off. And then we're going to take them and we're going to set them right over here. They're going to sit there until there's enough to glaze fire. And I did a glaze firing last night with some of the new glazes I'm testing out to see how they look. Your figurative sculptures had to have the bottoms wiped off, right? Some of you didn't, and I did that for you. I won't do that on the mugs. So as we turn in our mugs this week and next, they'll go on here. And if you don't wipe the bottom off, let's pretend that's not wiped off. I'm just going to set your mug up there. And you'll be like, hey, Mr. Jones, my piece hasn't been fired yet. It's been up there for 2 weeks. I'll be like, because you didn't wipe the bottom off. You'll be like, oh crap, let me do that. Okay, make sure you're wiping the bottom off. If you don't know if it's well, come find me. Okay, so let's review that super quickly. How many coats of regular paint on glaze?
3.
Okay, how many seconds do we stir?
3. 30. Dip for 30.
30 seconds. Okay, it's just a good number to remember. And we dip for 3 or less, right? But not a super fast. We're not just gonna just throw it in there. It's a nice controlled and back out. If for some reason you drop it in there, you just need to roll up your sleeve and go in after it. Please don't try to fake that you didn't do it. If you mess up, come find me. Let's fix the problem. There's a lot of ways we can fix the problems. I might be like, no, it'll be okay. Or it could be like, we need to wash that completely off, let it dry for a day, and then we can glaze it again next class period. Okay, there's a lot of things we can do. But please don't be like, oh, I'm gonna not tell Mr. Jones that I messed up pretty badly, and we're gonna set it up here, and then all of a sudden it runs all over the shelf, sticks. You don't have a mug anymore. It's on my shelf, and it's kind of a pain. So it's not that big of a deal. You're brand new at this. You can fix any problem that you caused. Any questions? Okay, yeah.
So which one are we gonna do for our projects, like paint on?
You can paint on or dip, and you can choose. But we are not for our mugs using underglazes or colored slips. So the whole point of textured mugs is to learn how to use these new glazes. Yeah.
So if we're doing an implied texture, can we dip it and then put a paint on for the implied texture? Or should we just paint on?
Oh, no, if you're gonna do implied texture, you're gonna put, well, you can tell me what you want to do. You can put underglaze on yours for an implied texture, because I forgot that was an option. Very few people use that option, but if you wanna paint something on there. Let's pretend it's a cartoon. And you can use the underglazes, or you can use these. So, yeah, tell me what you want to do, and we'll come up with a solution for that. Yeah. Anyone else? Okay.